Today we're working on a 2014 Chevy Volt. We're going to replace the valve cover due to the PCV valve is busted on the inside of it and it's built into it. This is the PCV that's in question. It's got a weird whistling noise. Then the PCV valve is most likely the culprit. The only way we can get it is through a valve cover gasket. Our valve cover. Now on this valve cover, this is the PCV that's in question, but the new valve cover, I got it at advance. It cost $92 plus tax, and it comes with all new bolts, new valve cover gasket. And if you'll notice these bolts, they don't fall out. Now here's our part number. Part number is a 264-968, and it's a Dorman. Well, let's get started. We're going to need a T30, 8mm. We're going to remove our air box, 2 clamps, number 8. We're just going to take this loose and kind of adjust it off to the side. Number 8 back here on our other hose. This hose goes down to our throttle body. Now then we can take our T30 and remove these 2 bolts. Let's remove our dipstick and the 2 T30s. Now we're just going to simply lift this up and pull it back just slightly, and it should lift off there. And the way this is designed, this is a baffle so that it doesn't pulsate and make the mass airflow pulsate where the numbers will run up and down. Steadies the airflow so it's a flow and not a bounce every time the pistons come down. Next up, we're going to remove our coil pack. Now we can remove our electrical connector. Let's see what. If you'll pull back on this orange connector, you'll hear it click. Now see, it's held it up, and just simply pull it off. Now we can get our T30s a hold of this coil. Now's a good time to do a tune-up if yours is ready for it. T30s. Now here's where I'm talking about it's going to be the issue. If these coils are stuck, if these boots are stuck, which mine are, and you've got to be careful when you're pulling up on this. You don't want to crack any of that, or you're going to need a new coil pack to go with it. Now if I can find, oh, that sucker is in there. Now I'm going to tell you, this side's starting to come up. I'm going to have something to give me a little bit of help on the other side. Now remember, when you're prying up on this, just be gentle, because if you're doing this without spare parts or without another ride, you'll be stuck. I'm just going to work it slow and easy. Hopefully the boots will come off with it. Now that's a good look at our coil pack. Now we can take us a small screwdriver and nudge these back a little bit and raise up on them. It don't take a lot. We don't want to snap the ears off. Now that takes care of that. We can remove our hose. Now you see, I chose not to unplug that because I think that we can lift this up this way, pull it out, and we won't have to disconnect our cam sensor. Now we can take our 15 10mm inverted bolts out. Let's see if this thing will pull up. Of course, no, it's stuck. Be sure that you got all your bolts loose before you start to pry on it. See, this valve cover's been on there for 160,000 miles as well, so pulling her up a little at a time. Now, we're not too worried about cracking the valve cover, because then again, we're replacing it. And you want to be cautious not to pry on anything that you're not replacing. We're getting close. Be cautious not to break no harness connector. Okay, we're kind of okay there. I don't know how high this has to come up in the front, because all we got is that much lift. Another thing too is the gasket is still stuck to our cover and to the valve and to the cylinder head. Now I'm not putting a lot of force on it because just trying to get a connector would be a pain. So I don't want to spend the rest of the evening trying to get a connector for it. There's why it is. It's because our gasket is stuck to it. Now then, we'll clean that mess up, put the new one on there, and we'll be done with it. Now I am happy to see that the engine is really clean on the inside for 160,000 miles. Good thing about a hybrid like this, it's probably closer to half that. Now we should be able to take a shop towel. And what I do is I'll put a little bit of parts cleaner on the towel or the rag, either one, and just go around where all the sealing where the gasket actually seals and clean that up best we can. Now I am kind of fortunate. If you look at it, it's not really, this engine is really good shape on the inside. So now if you've got a regular shop rag, I would like it better myself, but I don't, so here we are. Let's take a look at this valve cover. Here's the thing you want to be sure of. Now this valve cover comes with a new O-ring for oil cap. It says be sure to replace it. Now you want to make sure that these are all seated good. Looks like it looks pretty good to me. What I do find strange is these little openings. You would think that would leak, but the old one has it as well right there. So what I like to do is make sure everything looks similar. Well, it looks exactly the same, but just for looks, and we'll put her together and see how this aftermarket works in these areas. Now we're going to want to put us some sealer here and here on both of them where the front cover meets the head, so that we don't start a leak here. You can use any kind of silicone that won't take forever to set up, and just put you some in those spaces. So let's see if we can get this thing walked in here without doing any more damage. Then we got to watch, make sure we don't push these out, because we're going to be tight. We already know in this front area where the harness and everything is, and we didn't have to be as cautious with the old one, but the new one we've got to be a little more particular with it. And we probably could have put pull the injector ones. If you think you can do it without breaking them, I just don't want to start a new problem before I fix the old problem. And like I said, it's tight, but just be patient. Don't break a harness connector. Once we get that over top of that, I think, there we go. Now we're on the other side, I believe. And all we want to do is be patient as we put the new valve cover back on. Now you can probably feel around, make sure that gasket's still seated. Everything looks good there. Nothing's interrupting this part except for that one. We look pretty good so far. Now we can take and tighten all our bolts down. We should be in good shape. We'll know when we get it running. Now we're going to run these bolts down. We'll start in the center and just work our way out, and we're not going to nail them right off the bat. We're just going to run them down till they start to. See, our whole purpose here is to make sure that the gasket valve cover goes straight down and not hit it here and then hit it here and have it just warped. That gives our odds a better chance of not having a leak or cracking our valve cover. Now the whole purpose of the PCV, positive crankcase ventilation, is to maintain a negative pressure inside the block. As the pistons move up and down and the fuel is ignited, there's always some seepage by the rings that will contaminate our oil. This will pull all the contaminations, and then the heating and cooling will collect moisture inside the engine. This will dry the oil out, gives you a longer oil life. It's pulled out and then put into the intake, which then goes back through and gets burned. Now what I like to do is I'll set this at a smaller scale, and I'll run them all down to that and then work my way up to the 71 inch-pounds. We can go through and make sure we hit every bolt. Okay, we're good there. It'd probably be a good idea to go ahead and replace the old ring on this, because the box does come with a new one. And what I'm going to do is get a pick and see if I can pick this old one out and make sure we don't damage damage or cut the sealing surface of the cap, which I'm gonna have to say GM's good about their rubber, because that is still not, it's still not hard and brittle. Now let's get her a new one and see what we like. See if it goes on as smooth. Now what I am gonna do too is make sure there's no dirt inside the little groove that sets in. Now we can just take and ease this around over top of it, and we don't have to try to do anything crazy with it. And if you'll notice, I don't know if you can see that or not, but that seal is rolled. I'm going to try to do this without puncturing the seal. All I'm going to do is pull it out and put it back in, and allow it to just run that around there. And that way it's not twisted, because if it's twisted, it'll be kind of knotted up, and it'll make it a little fatter there. Seem to be okay there. Now I'm going to take a little bit of synthetic oil and put around that way we don't cut our seal. Won't take much. And if you've got a lot of dirt and grime on your glove, but we're just gonna put us a little bit of lube around that. And if you use oil that it's made for, you don't have to worry about it deteriorating the rubber and making it hard and failing prematurely. Now I don't think that it's too bad an idea for us to just go ahead and put a little oil around our opening as well. That'll make everybody happy. Okay, now let's see what we can get involved in. Hook our harness, our vacuum hose clamp, our coil pack until it stops. Now these two bolts also torque at 71 inch-pounds. Now in the same way you do the valve covers, just keep walking it back and forth until you hit your goal of 71. Reconnect our connector. Push in until it clicks. You'll see that drop down. Now it looks like we're all done here. All we need to do is put our air box back on and we'll be done. Now we can reinstall our cover. You're just going to tilt it back a little, get it underneath the windshield wiper, and it'll slide down into its area. Now dipstick, throttle body hose, air filter hose, tighten up our clamps. Now we're done if she'll run. Now we'll let her run, make sure we have no leaks. Now I've run this engine and let it get up to operating temperature, and you can clearly hear the change in it after replacing the valve cover. Now I'm not certain that the oil seal, the front crank seal, may have to be replaced, because I've took and been running it like this and the noise is coming from that. That means that the crank seal is being sucked in. Hang on just a minute, let me turn this off and you can hear me a little better. Now that we've replaced the valve cover, you can clearly hear that the noise has gone away. So that took care of part of our problem, because I'm not real sure we won't have to replace the crank seal anyway. If you think about it, look at all the dirt, moisture and everything that's been sucked through the crank seal and through that upper vent on the valve cover. Probably replace the crank seal anyway, and also go ahead and do an oil change, because all the road film, dirt, grime, everything being sucked through that crank seal. All right, thank you for watching.